Hello, everyone. I'm John Gottfried. I'm a developer evangelist at Twilio and thank you, and a home automation fanatic. I've been developing robots and kind of hacking on hardware for many, many years. I started out with firefighting robots, which are literally robots that fight fires, and have evolved into much weirder things, and I'll talk about a little of that today. Before I start, I'd like to give a shameless plug to my presentation framework that I just launched called Crayola.js. So let's get this going. So I'm here to talk to you about home automation. Home automation is awesome. So let me start out with a question. How many of you have dumb devices? How many of you have a toaster? Keep your hand up if you have a toaster. Okay. Keep your hand up if your toaster can talk to your refrigerator, perhaps. Okay, none of you. That's really unfortunate. So they're all analog parts, but we have this really, really powerful digital network that we all use on a day-to-day basis as we're developing software. And I think it's a real shame that these devices in our home that we spend so much time using can't talk to the internet. So when I make my toast in the morning and I go and get distracted writing some code, it gets cold. So what do? So we add brains. We take all of these simple mechanical devices like toasters or microwaves, and we add brains to them so that we can connect them to the rest of the environment that we live in. What are these brains? So you guys heard earlier about microcontrollers like Arduino or PIC boards or all those sorts of things. Microcontrollers are essentially robot brains, right? They're a small form factor, generally high power in the sense that they are powerful, not in the sense that they consume a lot of power, computers. And these computers allow us to take a multitude of analog and digital inputs from our environment and from existing devices, like we heard about in the Internet of Things talk earlier, and connect them to programs that we've written in order to interact with our environment. So let's talk about kind of what this looks like and what some of the applications are. So what I want to be able to do is I want my toaster and perhaps the fruit in my fridge to talk to my Wi-Fi router, right? And maybe I have a good reason for this. Maybe I want a notification when my toast pops up. Maybe I want a sensor that tells me when my fruit is going bad. The idea of home automation is to take this Internet of Things concept, right, which is pretty familiar. You know, you have a physical device that connects to the internet, and to apply it to the actual environment that we live in. So doors, windows, large pieces of hardware that are stationary in your home, and connecting them together so that they can interact and ideally make a much more efficient kind of living environment. And not only that, but they can take advantage of a lot of existing kind of APIs and tools that we're familiar with as developers, right? You know, being able to send SMS messages to turn on and off things in my home, or perhaps using, Pusher or, even Vimeo, right, to like upload videos of what's going on in your environment. So why is this suddenly possible, right? Because people have been talking about this for many, many years. This is a really, really common topic in science fiction. So only very recently have the parts become cheap enough for us to do this on a large scale. And not only that, but the parts are becoming much more available. I don't know about many of you, but I remember when I was trying to build maybe 5-10 years ago, my options were essentially Radio Shack or going to some obscure manufacturer that had a terrible website. And retailers like SparkFun, like Adafruit, like even the Arduino store, are making all of these parts and all of these pretty powerful sensors and microcontrollers widely available very cheaply in small quantities. And this has enabled quite a few kind of home automation and Internet of Things startups to come out of it because the barrier to entry is now very, very low, right? We have companies like SmartThings, like NinjaBlocks, like Lockatron, who have all kind of taken these off-the-shelf parts, put them together in an innovative way, and launched products that change our environment. So let's talk a little bit about what kinds of things you can do with home automation and why I think it's exciting. So this is one that I built in my apartment in New York. And the idea is that when I come in the door in the middle of the summer when it's 90 degrees, I want the AC to turn on immediately. And I don't want to have to walk up 4 flights of stairs to turn on the AC. I just want it to be on when I walk in. Use basic proximity, like perhaps connecting to your Wi-Fi network or a Bluetooth sensor or NFC. Not only that, but you can actually have some kind of responsive applications as well of things in your home. So how many of you have kids? Okay. I don't at the moment, but at the moment. But I know that like baby monitors are a pretty common item in people's homes. But imagine if the baby monitor were programmable. Get an audio input from your child's room and perhaps turn on the light so that you can see where you're going when the baby starts crying in the middle of the night and you don't stub your toe anymore. Or perhaps being able to control your home's security system or even just a manual lock by code, right? You can create access control lists for your home. Maybe you want to let the Airbnb guest in only during their stay dates. Or maybe you want to let your plumber in only during hours of the day where you're not home. Right? All of this can be accomplished using basic off-the-shelf parts and really simple systems. There's also quite a few security applications as well. So you can use sensors to detect changes in your environment that may be expected or unexpected. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the sensors we have available, but you could perhaps get an SMS message when your window is broken into or is left open in the middle of winter. So, sadly, and I apologize to Pavel because we're going to overlap a little bit here, we're not going to create home robots. I'm very disappointed by that. So we can't get HAL to control our environment and kill us eventually. But home automation is still really freaking cool. Yep. It's really freaking cool, at least I think so. Because we're taking the physical analog world that we live in and spend all of our time in to make it more efficient, more secure, more responsive, and ultimately, for hackers like us, a lot more fun. So what do we have available today that you can hack on and kind of get started with? So I have a bunch of sensors here, a bunch of parts that we can all play with. I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the neat ones. And maybe it'll get you guys brainstorming some ideas. So the first one we got here is called the power switch. This is a really kind of simple and more importantly safe. Typically you can build this yourself. There's nothing inside of this that's rare or hard to configure. There's a pretty high chance that you'll electrocute yourself, so let's not do that. There's a safe way to do it. We have a lot of switches. So I've always been fascinated with the idea of not only changing your existing environment, but creating new devices. So imagine if rather than pulling on the cord to your fan, when you pulled on the cord, it actually is perhaps turning on the AC. So we have some switches that will let you do that. We also have a ton of sensors to kind of detect changes in your environment. We have motion sensors. That one's pretty self-explanatory. If you want to detect something moving around and react to it. Humidity and temperature sensors. That's a pretty neat one. We have carbon monoxide and methane sensors. I promise it works. Yeah, I mean, yeah, not in that room. Yeah, we have noise sensors. So you can get an analog input from this microphone and connect it right to your Arduino and perhaps create the baby monitor I spoke about, or interfaces that react to audio, like being able to knock as a command. We have vibration sensors. So a project I'm working on at home right now, which I could talk about a little bit, is putting these on washers and dryers so that you can get alerted when their laundry is done without having to modify the machine itself. We have force sensors, detect when doors are open, perhaps something is moved. Yeah, I'm not a good artist. We have tilt sensors. There's a lot of cool things you can do with this one. One that came to mind is, I don't know how many of you have dogs, but dogs really like to knock over garbage cans. And it would be really cool to know when that happens. Water sensors. So these actually can alert you when liquid is detected, and it won't damage the circuit. There's a little sensor node on the end there, and you can do awesome things with that. Dust sensors. This is what's commonly used in most air purification systems. We have infrared receivers and transmitters. Those are really freaking cool because basically everything in your home already speaks infrared. Your TV, your AC, my window shades do, which is really neat. You can control all of them programmatically. Barometric pressure sensors. I'm not really sure about this one. Maybe some of you live in an apartment that changes altitude, perhaps in an airplane. Or someone will think of something awesome to do with that. Yeah, weather changes, that's a good one. Or perhaps altitude change, I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, so that's kind of the whole shebang there. And basically what I want people to get a feel for, since obviously none of you, well, I doubt any of you brought your homes with you, but we should still be able to prototype some really cool ideas to kind of get a feel for how these things interact and how to deal with kind of environmental changes, and maybe create some things by modifying the rooms in here, potentially. So we'll see. But yeah, home automation, it's really freaking cool. I love it, and I would love if you guys would come hack with me. So thank you.